Okay, welcome. So today we are here, we're going to be talking about investing in Airbnbs. And so Airbnb has kind of become this like catch-all phrase. It's really not. There are lots of ways you can do it. Short-term rentals, anything that I think it depends on the jurisdiction, but generally between less than like 28 to 30 days is considered a short-term rental, and generally has other rules and regulations around it outside of a longer-term rental, which is considered longer than 30 days. So Airbnb, even though it's only been around for like the last 15 years, has sort of become like the Kleenex name of short-term rentals. There's also VRBO, like you can do it through lots of other places, but I think that when people talk about short-term rentals, the Airbnb is the catch-all name. So so moving on to the next slide, Nicole, or sorry, Nicolette, if you want to. So this is me, Cassie Kneebone. I have been a real estate agent for the last 7 years, but I am also a real estate investor. So I own both a short-term rental up in Northern California and then also have long-term rentals here in Los Angeles as well. Next slide. So just to start it off, so a few statistics. So like I mentioned, Airbnb was only founded in 2008. So it's been around for less than 15 years, but has really taken the market by storm. And so there's, I don't even remember where I pulled these stats from, some short-term rental place had compiled these, but it was basically 600,000 Americans are renting out their houses, their condos, their apartments to short-term guests. 70% of vacation rental companies are small. They're mom and pop landlords with between 1 and 19 units. 450 million people worldwide use vacation rentals, which is obviously a ton of people, but that's worldwide. It really has taken off worldwide. And then also 23% of Americans report engaging with short-term rentals. So that's also a lot of people. 23% of Americans have used a short-term rental. So it's really a huge market. And I think talk to Hilton, talk to Sheraton, talk to any of these huge hotel companies, and they will tell you that short-term rentals are really have been exploding over the last few years. Next slide. So I think the first question is here, so you want to run a short-term rental. Why? Why do you want a short-term rental? What is your motivation for that? Why not get a long-term rental if you're looking for having investing into real estate? What is it about the short-term rental that is appealing to you? Is it that you want to be able to use it yourself? Is it that you're hoping that it'll make more money? You have to really think about what it is. You just want to be in the hospitality business, because that's really what you're doing when you're opening a short-term rental, is you are becoming a business in the hospitality business. So you have to just sort of think about what's going to fit your wants and needs better. We're going to talk more about sort of the upsides and the downsides and why you may want to do it. But I think that really needs to be the first question that you ask yourself. So upsides, downsides. So upside definitely is, for me personally, is the flexibility to use the home yourself. Have you seen that HGTV show, The Vacation House for Free? Don't know if it's necessarily 100% for free. It depends on the property. But so if it's something that you want to be able to use yourself, if it's a long-term rental, you can't come in and do that. So that's a really big reason. Sorry, I have this piece of hair that's bothering me here. Also, there is the potential to make a higher profit. You can make more money potentially with a short-term rental. We'll talk about some of the costs too. But so those are kind of some of like the real big upsides. But then downsides is that there really is a lot of increased management and costs when you're comparing it to a longer-term rental. There's also additional wear and tear on the house. When people come to stay at your house, not everyone, of course, but like people are on vacation. They don't care. They're not, this is not a place that they treat it like a hotel. They're not living there. So there will be additional wear and tear on your house. And then also another downside is like you pay all the monthly expenses. So the electricity, the water, the gardener, the trash, the internet, the gas, all of those things that would normally be paid, especially if you have like a single family home that you're renting out long term, they're going to pay the water, they're going to pay the electricity, they're going to pay the internet, they're going to pay for their streaming services. All of those things are things that you have to think about and provide, and you have to budget for when you're thinking about setting up a short-term rental. So things to consider prior to your purchase. So you're thinking about doing this, but things to consider. So number one is the loan. So I am not a lender. That's not my specialty, but we have a number of great lenders who can help you if you have questions about this. But my understanding is typically for an investment property, you usually need 25% down. If it's something that you're not going to be living in, just an investment, you know, talk to your lender. There may be ways around this, but if you are renting, if you're buying something as like a vacation house for yourself, you don't need that same percentage down. So you can buy things for, you know, maybe 5% down. Like when we bought our house, it was, we bought it as a second home. And so we put 10% down, but we did end up, then we had to pay mortgage insurance, which we were able to get rid of quickly through a program, through our lender. But it's just something to sort of be aware of, is, you know, to think about how much you're going to need down for a long-term rental versus a short-term rental. So talk to your lender. Again, if you need recommendations, we're happy to put you in touch. A big thing for short-term rentals, probably more than for long-term rentals, is location. So you want to think about why this area, what is going to bring people there for a short-term rental? Is it a vacation community? Is it on the beach? Is it a university town where people are going to be coming for graduations and parents are going to be coming in? What is it that brings people to the area to stay? Because, you know, if you're looking at a vacation rental in Palm Springs versus Lancaster, you're going to have a very different market, and you're going to have a lot more people interested in coming to a place where it's a vacation destination versus a place that's not. So then also the property itself. So what amenities the property offer? And this is like, you really need to think about when you go on vacation, what are you looking for? Do you want a hot tub? Do you want a view? Do you want there to be multiple bedrooms? Like, are you going with your family? Like, what is it about the property that makes it special? And one thing I put here too is like, you want to think about the number of bedrooms and the number of bathrooms. Like, do you want to have a 1-bedroom or do you want to sleep 20? And if you're sleeping 20, you of course are going to be able to charge a much higher rate, but your maintenance is going to be more. The wear and tear on the house is going to be more. The house is going to be more expensive to start. So a lot of things to go into consideration with that, but that's definitely something you want to think about, is the property itself. Then also, so local regulations. So since short-term rentals have really been exploding in the last, I'd say, decade, really, a lot of areas have caught on quickly and have restrictions about when you can rent, how many people you can rent to, things like that. So before you buy a house, you absolutely want to make sure, if you're thinking about turning into a short-term rental, to see what you can and can't do. So like Palm Springs, for example, limits their stays to 36 days during the year, not 36 nights, but 36 days. So a stay could be 25 days or it could be 1 night, but you can only have 36 days in the year. So you want to think about that. Like, probably want to put a limit or make a night minimum on if people stay for a minimum number of nights. You don't want to let people stay for 1 night and then only rent out your house for 36 nights for the whole year. Other things like Los Angeles does not allow short-term rentals in multi-unit properties that's under the rent stabilization ordinance. So basically the rent control. So if you were to buy a duplex or a fourplex and say, oh great, I could rent all 4 of these out, you cannot. And again, like, look into all of these specific regulations, but you can rent out single family homes for short-term rentals, but not multi-unit properties in Los Angeles. So you have to know that before you go in at all. Okay, next slide. So then also, along with these regulations, so then also license and taxes. So most places now, again, have caught on and are charging It's called the transient occupancy tax, or TOT. It can be called various things, but that is usually about 10% of the total cost of the stay that you have to pay to the city where your rental is. And so your renters will pay that, but you have to remit it. And it depends, again, on where you are. Sometimes Airbnb will pay it for you and you don't have to worry about it. Other times you have to pay monthly, you have to pay quarterly, you have to register every year. Like, it depends on where you are, but most places have some kind of licenses and taxes that you have to apply for and pay on a regular basis. So definitely something you also want to know. Then also insurance. So regular homeowners insurance typically does not cover short-term rentals. When you have a short-term rental, you are basically opening a business. So you need more of a business policy. So I would start with your home insurance company and see what they have to say. But a lot of them will say, no, we don't cover that kind of activity. So you will need to get at least definitely a special policy if your homeowners insurance does offer it. And if they don't, then you need to go look. So there's a couple of companies who do. There's one called Proper, I listed it here. There's another one called CBiz or CBIZ. But basically you're getting a business policy through them. And they're better for a short-term rental because they cover things like you get higher liability, which you're going to want when you're running the business. You also get Nancy's #1 fan. Hi, Dan. There's also things like some places will cover bed bug coverage. So if somebody comes in and brings bed bugs into your house, it's a huge thing to try to get rid of them. And so they will pay to help to get rid of them. They'll also pay if you have to cancel some reservations for that. So it's just good to have a specific policy for that. And then the other thing is, like, don't forget maintenance. You think like, okay, I've got my insurance, I paid all my taxes, I've done all this, but like, again, people are on vacation, they don't care about your house. When it's a long-term rental, it's their house, they're going to take better care of it. And again, this is not across the board, but in general, things will break at a faster rate. Your coffee pot's going to break, your sheets are going to get stained, your toilets are going to get clogged. Like, people are going to throw up in your beds. I just have to tell you, it has happened to me multiple times. So if you're renting out like grandma's cottage, you have to be prepared to just steal yourself because things are going to happen in your house. People are gross. So that's something you just definitely have to make sure to put into your calculations, is higher cost of maintenance than if you were going to have just a long-term rental. Okay, next slide. Okay, so you've done all that, you've done all your research, you know where you want to buy, you've bought the house, you've gotten the loan, you've done all of it. Okay, so now you need to get the property ready. So this is another thing to think about for that's very different in short-term rentals versus long-term rentals. In a long-term rental, you buy it, and you just say, okay, who wants to come live here? But you don't have to furnish it and do all of these things. So the first thing is you have to furnish the house. So this is everything. There's everything from rugs to couches to mattresses to sheets to forks to knives to plates to everything, towels. So you really need to budget for this. And you also want to think about the details, like when you are staying at a hotel or a vacation rental, like, I want to have blackout curtains in the rooms. I want it to feel upscale and nice. People will treat your house better if you treat your house better. So you want it to be nice. And if this isn't your thing, I would definitely consider hiring an interior designer. I like this kind of thing, so it was a lot of fun for me to set up our Airbnb, but it probably costs about $25,000 to get everything, because again, like, it's literally everything. It's glassware, it's toilet paper, it's everything. So that's something that you have to think about and budget for. And also another point just right now is with all of these supply chain issues, you have to prepare for that you might not be able to get the couch you want for 6 months. So something just to be aware of in the current climate. Then also consumables. So the house must be always stocked with all of the things that guests need and use. So dish soap, sponges, toilet paper, paper towels, bath towels, laundry detergent, shampoo, Kleenex, all of that kind of stuff. You have to think about how you're going to keep the house stocked. Do you live nearby? Are you going to come bring these things to the house? Are you going to ship them? If you ship them, who's going to unpack them and put them out? Like these are things that you have to both budget for ongoing forever. It's not just a one-time cost. And then you also have to think about like who's going to replenish them. So then that leads into on-site property management and maintenance, is that you're going to need on-site property management. Some places, again, require you to have on-site property management, like ours does not, but still you need it. If something breaks in the middle of the night, if a guest can't get in, you need, if they run out of toilet paper, they run out of toilet paper and go get their own. But if there's not toilet paper provided to start, something like that, you really need to think about that. And then you also have to consider that in your budget too. How much is that going to cost? I know some places, I have a friend who has a short-term rental in Hawaii, and their property management, they have a condo and it's required that you go through their property management. I think they take 50% of the bookings. So that's really something you need to know is, do you have to have one? Where are you going to find them? And how much is that going to cost? Then this one, so professional cleaning also, this is like, for me, the number one most important aspect of running my Airbnb. My cleaner's name is Thomas. And I always joke that like my husband is the most important person in my life. And then Thomas is the second most important person in my life. He is so important to making sure that our Airbnb gets cleaned on time. You also really need them to be like flexible and reliable, because things change. People want to stay an extra day. People come late, last minute bookings. So you need somebody who can like jump in and be there last minute, because if they can't, then you're losing out on money. If they say, oh, sorry, I can't be there till Thursday, and somebody wanted to come on Monday, that could potentially be like $1,000 or more that you lose. So you've got to make sure that somebody's really committed to you, and that will be there when they say they will. So, okay, you've done all this, you've gotten your place already, it looks great. Do not then take photos with your phone. Just don't do it. Go spend the like couple $100 and go get professional photos taken. I mean, this is for real estate listings too, but like you can see here on these two slides, like the top, they both look like a desert environment. The top one is obviously professional photos, like at dusk, beautifully done. And the bottom one looks like somebody took it with their phone. Like, don't be that person. Spend the extra money. It will make a difference in your bookings. So then after you've done that, then setting your nightly price. So you want to look, again, as with all real estate, you want to look at the comparables and look at other rentals in the area and what are they charging per night? Do they have extra fees? Do they charge for pets? What's their cleaning fee? Do they charge for extra people? Is your place better or worse? You don't want to compare yourself to a 7-bedroom mansion. If you have 2 bedrooms, you want to look at places that are similar to yours. And then when you're getting started, especially, I recommend to price yourself a little bit lower and get a few bookings, get a few good reviews. And then once you have a few of those, then you can up your price. And you can always up your price. You can change it. You set your price completely. So if you want to make it $10 a night, you can do that. If you want to make it $10,000 a night, you can do that. So you can change it whenever you want. But it's I recommend to start a little bit lower and see how it goes. You don't want to go too low though, because I have found that the lower you price, the less quality tenants you get. People tend to come and just party at your house if you price it too low, I have found. And then you also want to think about the platforms that you use to advertise. So I could do like a whole separate PowerPoint about the differences between Airbnb and VRBO. I do not like VRBO personally for a number of reasons. I like Airbnb much better, but people do use VRBO. I guess they've rebranded themselves to now Vrbo instead of VRBO, if you've seen their ads, but their interface is just bad, and it's, I can go into the whole thing, but Airbnb I like better. One of the big reasons I like Airbnb better for booking is that they have a better insurance too, which I'm actually going through right now. Had somebody damage our property a couple of weeks ago and refused to pay for it. And Airbnb does have a host guarantee. So I'm actually like getting paid out from Airbnb right now, which Vrbo does not offer. So that's a big one because, again, people are horrible and are going to mess up your house. It's just going to happen. Be prepared. Sorry. You're also going to have wonderful people. And I would say like the vast majority, 98% of my guests are great. And then 2% are like horrible. So it's good to have that extra layer. Also, Airbnb in my local area, they do pay the taxes for me, so I don't have to worry about that. So that's one less thing. If I rent through VRBO, then I do have to go in and like manually pay the taxes quarterly, and it's just another thing to put on it. And then I also put self-book. That's like if you wanted to make your own website and just take bookings. It's, you know, you would have to do SEO, and like you'd have to put yourself out there. And then you also want to make sure that if you are on multiple sites, that you want to make sure that your calendars are syncing, because you don't want to double book yourself, which I've done once. And I realized it well in advance, but still I had to go back and like cancel the people. So you definitely don't want to do that. Okay, next slide. Oh yeah, so okay, so then that's the end. So I just wanted to show, this is my Airbnb. It's in Nevada City, California, which is about halfway between Sacramento and Lake Tahoe. The reason that we chose this place is that this is where I grew up. So my parents still live there. My sister lives there. We have lots of friends that live there. And it is a destination of sorts. It's a really cute Victorian town in foothills of the Sierra Nevada mountains. It's about an hour away from skiing. And as you can see, for us, this was a log home. It's in the mountains. So for me, when thinking about renting this out, you know, having this versus just like a condo, when people come to the mountains, they want to be in a log cabin. We have, I don't think it's pictured here, no it's not, but there's like a really cute wood burning fireplace or a wood burning stove, and it's just got a lot of ambiance. So it's definitely been very successful for us. I would say, you know, there's a lot of expenses, as I mentioned, and there's a lot of things that go into it. So it's not, I would not say it's a huge money maker for us, but it definitely covers our costs. And like even our duplex here in Los Angeles, that's not really a big money maker either. And I think especially with real estate prices as they are now, it's hard to find something that's going to like just make a ton of money. But for me, if it pays for itself, then it is making money because it's also appreciating in value. I mean, just it's appreciated hundreds of thousands of dollars in the 5 years since we bought it. And it's paid for itself this entire time. So, so for us, it's been great. And it also pays for itself. Plus we're able to go. We're going for 3 weeks for the summer, and we go usually for at least a week in Christmas. We're going next week. So overall, it's a lot of work, I would say. But if it's something that you're really interested in and wanting to do, then it can definitely be worthwhile. And especially for me personally, like I said, for us being able to have a vacation house for free, that we can go use it and enjoy it, and it's there for us whenever we want, and it pays for itself. So Nancy, I saw you asked a question, but I was talking and I don't know how to get to the questions.
Yeah, I'll ask it. First of
Yeah,
all, this is amazing, Cassie. Thank you so much, because I am very much interested in the investment topic and you are very knowledgeable. I've actually been to Cassie's cabin. I give her 5 stars reviews when she says she takes time to decorate. Like she has this amazing telescope that looks off like a huge bay view when it's amazing. So y'all go book Cassie's Airbnb, but take care of it because she'll come out. I'm just kidding.
I actually just got rid of that telescope too. I was like,
oh, you did. It's gorgeous. Oh, I loved it. And it's in the cutest town. Oh my gosh. I can go on and on. I'll just write you a review though, Cassie. But I do have a question.
Yes.
I have a question. What do you, if as an investor, what do you find that gives you more money? Short-term rentals like this Airbnb, or long-term rentals like your duplex?
You know, it's hard to say. I would say like, it's hard to say because for us, like I said, our property has certainly appreciated in value, but like it has not appreciated in value in the way that our Los Angeles property has. We had looked at buying a house in Palm Springs like 7 years ago. But we thought, well, you know, it's a vacation community, like, I don't know. We didn't end up buying it, and that house has tripled in value in the last 7 years. But like, who knows? So in terms of appreciation, like, I would say Southern California real estate, like if you're buying a ski condo in Idaho or something, like your appreciation is probably not going to be as great. So that's there's sort of the two sides, like the appreciation of your asset, and then also just like the money that you make every month. But I think, you know, your expenses, you can certainly make more money doing a short-term rental, but your expenses are quite a bit higher. And like I mentioned, like your maintenance is a lot higher. So I think also for us personally, where our property is, you know, it snows there, and Like we just had to paint, and so we have to also have people come and plow, and like it has a gravel driveway, we have to relay the gravel driveway. So we certainly would have made money on the house if we weren't like constantly doing upgrades to it too. But then like that's part of home ownership. You have to do that. So I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that there are lots of people in the country who would say like, oh yeah, you can make a ton of money doing short-term rentals. That has not personally been my experience with it. But like I said, it is definitely paying for itself. I mean, I think we made a little bit of money maybe last year, but also like we added, so we're doing upgrades to the house, which if you weren't doing, like, sure, yeah, then we would definitely be making money. But I think
if you had to pinpoint one, Cassie, like, you know,
for us, I don't think I wouldn't probably be doing the short-term rental if I didn't want to use it as a vacation home, because it is a lot of management. It's way more work than our long-term rental is. I mean, by orders of magnitude more work than our long-term rental is. And kind of like being a landlord in general, I find is like, it comes in fits and starts. We're like, I won't hear from my tenants for 6 months, and they just send their checks and everything's fine. And then like the place will burn down. Like we had a fire at our duplex in Mid-City. And then that was like months of work and so much effort, but on a much lesser level. Sometimes, just yesterday she was like, my toilet's not working. But so things kind of come and go in terms of work and in terms of money, of things that you have to spend. But I would say like, if I was just doing it as a money-making venture, then I would not do a short-term rental. And maybe if I cared less about it, like if I was only doing it for a short-term rental to make money, then maybe I wouldn't be like painting it and redoing the gravel and doing all these things. But it is also a pride of ownership for us as well. So if you're sort of wanting to just be like a landlord and just kind of collect checks, I would not do a short-term rental. But if it's something that you want to use and have and enjoy for yourself, then a short-term rental is like the only way to really do that.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, do we have any more questions here? Let me see.
I see Dan has his hand up.
I'm curious because this is you have one short-term rental, correct? It's the one.
Correct.
So do you find like looking at the expenses of it and just kind of what it takes? Do you think it's scalable? Like if you were, or have you looked at scaling? Like have you thought about buying more in that town and then trying to like spread cost across like a management company managing multiple ones? Does it get any more advantageous or not really?
Not that I have found. I certainly have not, because it's not really a huge moneymaker for us. It's a lot of work and it's not making a lot of money. So it's like, so no, I haven't. I know that there are a lot of places. I know, again, like in Palm Springs, I've looked at their regulations, like there you can't have more than one short-term rental. So that's also just something to look at in your individual location. Again, if you're looking at a ski place in Idaho, like I don't know what their regulations are going to be,
right?
But there obviously are. There's a lot of companies who have gone out and like bought up a bunch of properties to rent them out. I mean, one thing I did not touch upon, and like probably a lot of people don't care, but it's something to think about, and I certainly think about, is just like the ethics of it though too, is that that there is a lot of discussion about how Airbnb is really bad for communities and is pushing people out of their homes and out of their communities. And like in our place in Northern California, I certainly feel that, because housing is a real problem there. And so whenever I'm there and like talking to locals and I'm like, we have an Airbnb up here, I always feel like public enemy number one. And like, maybe people don't care, but like I am sensitive to those things. And so I do feel I justify it for myself in that, well, I grew up here, my parents still live here, like we eventually want to move here. So for me, I'm like, I feel fine about it. And like, if we were going to have a place in Palm Springs, I feel like, well, it's a vacation community. Like that's what it was built to be. Like, sorry, then don't live here if you don't want that. But if you are moving into like Pocatello, Idaho, or I don't know, or somewhere else, if you want to open a short-term rental in Bakersfield or something, which, who knows, but I think it's something just at least to, at least be aware of.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
So yeah, if anyone has any other questions, feel free to reach out to me. I love talking about it. And like I said, like I've been doing it for 5 years and we do really enjoy it. I do have times when people call and say, oh, we threw up all over the bed. We need to replace all the sheets and things and actually one thing I was going to say about that too, is that I don't think, even if I live locally, I don't think that I could personally, clean it myself because I think it would make me too upset. I think that seeing what people do to the house, like sometimes our cleaner will send pictures and I'm like, unless something's like really broken and I need to know about it, don't even tell me, because people don't really respect your space. So if it's a space that you love, and it is a space that we love, it is our vacation house, that I don't think that I could come in and see everybody's beer bottles and stuff spilled on the floors. And so I would recommend getting a cleaner just for that reason. But my mom, she lives in the same town and she actually has a little like studio efficiency apartment in her. She has a duplex and she rents it out and she doesn't have those problems, but she also lives upstairs and it's also like a studio. So it tends to be 2 people. So they don't have the same issue of like a whole house on 2 acres to themselves. But yeah, so just another thing to kind of think about. So yeah, if anybody has any questions, let me know, and good luck.
Thanks.